Hi, my name is Vanessa Leck, and today's video, no. Okay, I was supposed to do my intro first. And so I have so many tech issues, it's kind of just incredible. I'm gonna do my intro and then we'll get back to what today's video is gonna be about. But the video/podcast is supposed to be about, I'll just tell you now, military spouse, and I suspect to military veteran licensing for professional licenses across state lines, essentially, and what that's all about in each state. In the U.S. Department of Labor, I'm going to go over a really handy website I found a long time ago. I'm going to share with everyone because enough people are not talking about this, so I'm going to. Okay, so I'm back. So my name is Vanessa Leck, and yes, I am a military spouse, and I'm also a military veteran, and I have my own career and my own company, and I do all the things, and I've moved around quite a bit through the years because I joined the military many years ago and did that for a while, and it just found that basically I was always moving thereafter. So that has brought with it a ton of complications professionally for things like professional licensure. And I know I'm not the only one, but it's not something that gets a lot of attention at all. And unfortunately, politicians, some of them have definitely used us as political props and talked about how they've solved all these professional licensing problems when they really haven't even addressed it at all in a meaningful way. And what I mean by that is whether you're a military spouse or military veteran or someone else, the reality is that, trying to obtain a professional license across state lines from a state that you're not currently in, for most people is very challenging. Now, there are some exceptions. Nurses have really got it together. They're really doing all the things. And my understanding is that it's fairly easy for them to say have an agreement about this, which totally makes sense. I have a lot of different thoughts about I've talked in the past when I've been speaking with other professionals and interviews I've done in the past about nationalized licensing and things like that. When you have a driver's license, you can drive anywhere with that license. You don't have to switch every time you cross state lines. So I think the professional licensing thing is really ridiculous. And I really think it's more to do with power and control and cash than it does anything else. And I think you'll see what I'm talking about when I show you this chart, which just shows kind of like how outrageous this entire thing is. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share my screen, which I already have shared. And for those of you listening to the podcast, the visual is going to be on my YouTube channel. You can find it. You can type in my name. You can type in all the things. You can find it. It's not hard to find it all. And sorry, I'm like having some allergies right now. So I'm like sniffling. Anyways, I'm doing more of these informal videos because the reality is, I guess real quick before I get to that, I wouldn't be able to do all these videos on this podcast if I were busy getting dolled up and doing everything with perfect lighting and perfect everything. I actually did bring with me today some of my equipment, so my audio is going to be better and my video quality is going to be better than just using the crummy video in my phone or my computer. So anyways, those are good things, but I'm really passionate about multimedia. I love podcasts. I love watching videos. I love, all the things. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy, other people's content and whatnot. And so I'm creating my own because I really feel that this information is worthwhile. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. And yes, I'm like sniffling over here. Gosh, allergies. Okay. So, as you'll see, it's an alphabetical order here. This is U.S. Department of Labor. It says military spouses right here. However, the website says veterans.gov/mil spouses /military _spouse _txt.htm. I'll go ahead and put a link of that in the description of both the podcast and the video so you can check that out. Now, this is an alphabetical order. It starts in Alabama and it goes all the way down. And so I found from reviewing this, and I have not reviewed every single state, but from just reviewing the information section, it says like state in one category, military spouse license, recognition options in next category, and then military spouse legislation, third category, and it has a link to the PDF, which is super helpful, handy. I'm really impressed with their choice to put this together. I don't see a date of when it was last updated on the website, so I'm not really quite clear on how up to date all of this is. But one thing I've noticed from reviewing some of this is the longer the explanation is, the more regulated it is, meaning the harder it will be for a person, a military spouse, let's just say, to obtain their license in that state. That's just what I've seen. I'm in a state right now where I called the licensing board because I have been here for a while now. I've been here for gosh, how long have I been here for? Over a year. And I'm gonna be here for another year change, it sounds like. And so I wasn't expecting any of that. And so I contacted the licensing board only to find out, the explanation looks really complicated. And then when I called the licensing board, I'll go to full screen real quick to explain this. When I called the licensing board, I found out, oh, guess what? It's basically so complicated to have my license recognized in this state, one of my licenses, that I would be better off just not even wasting my time. And it's so complicated that it's basically almost like I would have just graduated school and be going through the process all over again. That's how complicated it is. And they pretend like some of these states, like they're somehow on board with something, but they're not. They're not. Many of these states don't want to recognize any outside license. They want to put people through the ringer. They want to put them through, lots of cash and lots of hours of, whatever the case may be, supervision, training, whatever. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And non-military people are going through this too as well. And it's just really unfortunate. Okay, let me get back to my screen share here. All right. So some states, I'm going to point out which states are the most amazing with being friendly. Utah is one of them. I was so impressed, honestly, with the Utah regulations, Utah stuff. It says state agencies shall allow licensed military spouses to practice without a local license. And then parentheses, it says that is true recognition. Hell yeah, that's true recognition. Oh my God. Like, I wish I were in Utah right now. That would be completely amazing. And, this is just such a big deal, all this licensing stuff, because of the fact that, not only a lot of people don't realize how disadvantaged financially military families really are. And part of it are these constant moves. And so if you have, a spouse, let's just say, A, it's just hard to keep employment, period. B, if you have a spouse with a license that can't obtain recognition, or it takes months and months and months and months to get a license, which in some cases it really does. Or they'll give a temporary license and then take it away, potentially if you don't meet a bazillion different requirements, which, it's ridiculous. And so it makes it to where there's a lot of unemployment or underemployment, and then the lack of stability and stuff contributes to this reality. And so I think it's a great option for military spouses to potentially work for themselves if they have one of these professional licenses. You don't have to have a professional license to work for yourself. I'm saying if you do, I think it's a great option to work for oneself, potentially in certain situations and life circumstances, compared to working for other people, because it can potentially create more stability, potentially. Okay. I have found that to be the case for me. I've been working for myself for about 3 years exclusively now, and it's created a lot of different opportunities for me and a lot of stability I wouldn't have had otherwise, where I was able to just do different things for myself with professional milestones and training and employment and things like that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. And even just business opportunities and marketing, promotion, things like that I wouldn't have been able to do if I'd been employed by somebody else, because I have a lot of work experience. I've worked for other people extensively, quite a lot. And those experiences were experiences I just was rather forget. However, the positive side is I got a lot of work experience, and that really put me to the position I'm in now, where I can actually, do all the things. So anyways, I think it's great though if, someone's a plumber or a hairstylist and has those kind of licenses or some other type of professional license to potentially be able to work for themselves and to have more control over their life and their working conditions, which is huge. There's also something else I want to bring up, a lot of discrimination against military spouses and military veterans. Yeah, I'm going to do a whole video about that specific to military veterans later on. I've actually typed up an article and plan on releasing that. And believe it or not, this happens in the federal government. Believe it or not, it happens at U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Believe it or not, I've experienced it. I've experienced it big time. And that really impedes progress with attempting to stay employed, basically, when you're dealing with discrimination. So yeah, it's a big deal. Okay, so back at it. So here we go, looking at these states, and it goes all the way through. And some states don't say much. Like South Carolina says state agencies may issue temporary permits 1 year non-renewable to licensed military spouses. So not a lot of information, but there's fortunately a link to the PDF where you can learn more about that for these different states. Okay, New Mexico, state agencies shall issue licenses as soon as practicable. That's a weird word. To licensed military spouses from states with substantially equivalent education/training requirements. Some licensing fees are waived. Nevada, state agencies shall develop opportunities for reciprocity of licensure for licensed military spouses. Develop opportunities, like whatever that even means. Florida, the state of Florida seems to be pretty friendly. I mean, they've got a lot of regulations now where it does seem that they're fast tracking certain licenses and waiving fees, which is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. You have to be eligible, of course, in certain categories. And so you'd have to look into that information. I don't know if I'll do a video on that specifically. Let's be honest, this is a bit much with all with all this stuff, regulations. Idaho, state agencies shall issue expedited licenses to licensed military spouses. That's nice. Yeah. And this one says the same thing about Florida, but I looked into Florida and there is a lot more information than where that came from. I mean, there's more requirements for the different licenses, specifically the one I was looking into. They have to be fulfilled in order to obtain the license. It's not just like that friendly. It sounds like on the surface, but it's not. Then Connecticut doesn't even have a license recognition statute, which is sad. And so that's really hard. And, I've just known people, both military and non-military, have had the hardest times with getting their licenses recognized. In some cases, just haven't been able to, or just gave up because it was just way too much. So, yeah. And then you have just ones that are just super lengthy. So lengthy, these different things, these different descriptions. But anyways, I encourage anybody who is a military spouse that is a professional licensee of some kind to seriously consider checking out this website. It's once again the U.S. Department of Labor military spouse webpage, veterans.gov. Is the link, and there's a much longer link than that, and I will go ahead and link it to the description of this video. And I'm going to veterans.gov website right now, and there's actually quite a lot of information here. I guess I'll screen share that again. So if you go to veterans.gov, there's links to, it says military spouses, and it has information to try to get you signed up for the newsletter, U.S. Department of Labor. And then it goes into military spouse interstate license recognition options. And then it says military spouses serving professions with occupational license requirements face special challenges. They experience gaps in employment and costly interruptions in their career trajectory due to frequent relocations. Absolutely true. It is the policy of the U.S. Department of Labor to reduce employment barriers and enhance career opportunities for military spouses. And I have to say, just through developing that webpage, that goes a long way, because you just instantly have so many questions about, if you're in the situation, about, my license and getting it recognized and this and that. And there's so many barriers. And there still are. I mean, many of these states don't want these boards don't want to recognize licensees from outside their state. That's just what I see. And it's what I've directly experienced. I mean, it has taken me so many years, longer than the average, excuse me, allergies, to obtain, the license, especially my primary license that I obtained because of just states not wanting to be friendly. Like I literally had to do double the hours approximately, almost double that I would have had to do just because of the fact that I couldn't get out. I couldn't get things recognized basically, and it was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. And, the state I'm in, I refuse to go through any more of this licensing drama. Like I'm not doing it. And so, I don't really know 100% what state I'm going to end up in next. But I just know that hopefully if it's a state other than the one I just came from, it'll be a friendlier state and I'll be able to have some additional opportunities afforded to me there. And so I'm hopeful about that. We'll see. All right. Many states support military spouse for license recognition options by allowing for expedited applications, temporary licenses, or complete license recognition. This says use the military spouse interstate license recognition options map to find out the rights of a military spouse. Well, I got news for you. The rights are limited. I should know. And, I mean, this sounds great and everything, but it's really just not that great. Now, I love this little color coded map that they did here, and it says it has a little key. It says green state must recognize military spouse license. Well, that's not entirely true, okay? Because I was contacted in Florida and did the little live chat, which is a very cool feature they have. They're very with technology with one of the boards I applies to me. And there's a myriad of requirements. I mean, there really are. And if you don't fulfill those requirements, no license for you. So while the state itself is much friendlier than other states, like the one I'm currently in right now, it is not a thing where, oh, here's your little license from XYZ state, at least in my direct experience, which by the way was the last number of weeks me inquiring about this. You get your license recognized here. Oh, no, no, no. It's no Utah. Trust me. Okay. It's no Utah. Utah, they're real friendly out there. Okay, but yeah, these were all the states here that they're saying are, like uber friendly. Anyways, in Utah, of course, is on the list because Utah is like amazing and they're just so with it. It's just incredible. They're like, welcome, welcome, licensees, welcome. I mean, it's just incredible for military spouses out there. So, yeah, just a whole bunch of stuff. And then it says here, like, Kentucky. This state offers state agencies shall issue licenses to licensed military spouses within 30 days unless the agency can show significant statutory deficiency in previous education/training requirements, which could cause a health or safety risk. Okay, so that sounds all official and like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. But what I've learned directly firsthand from studying regulations, because I do a lot of studying regulations in my spare time, which I know sounds uber boring, but I am very rule oriented and they're very important. Okay, right? Like rules matter. Some more than others. Anyways, but what I've learned is that language, which I will repeat, deficiency in previous education/training requirements, which could cause a health or safety risk. Okay, that language right there, in my experience of studying these regulations, not a lawyer, this is not legal advice. I have no formalized legal education of any kind. Okay, anyways, back to my point. My experience has been that that is basically a loophole where these regulatory boards will climb through and be like, oh, you don't have enough supervised hours. Oh, you didn't, these like ridiculous rules of like, number of years of work experience or type of degree or certain classes that you didn't take. Like I've seen stuff in regulations where, oh my goodness, like, okay, you took the family counseling course, but not the couples counseling course in college, or I'm just making stuff up here, but this is kind of stuff I've observed, or you've taken these classes A, B, C, D, E, but you didn't take these classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And oh, they don't match up, so that could cause a public safety risk, a harm to the public. It's like, oh, really? Are we freaking kidding me? And so, I've seen it to where boards are going to want to require thousands of dollars in expenses for training for it to get more college courses, or thousands of dollars in more supervision. And it's just so ridiculous, some of the things I've seen. And so when I see stuff like that language, which I will repeat again, statutory deficiency in previous education/training requirements which could cause a health or safety risk, that it was like an umbrella that I've just seen regulatory boards hide under in order to make it to where it's impossible or extremely expensive and costly and time consuming to obtain a license. And I see it across the board in these different professions. Some are much worse than others. I'm not a massage therapist at all, never have been, but I have actually seen it to where I actually communicated with massage therapists in the past, and they were expressing to me how hard it was to let me get rid of my screen share right now. How hard it was to keep up their license just in one state because of all the regulations and stuff. They had a really hard time in one particular state a while ago. I spoke with them a number of years ago about this. And I was like, wow, really? Massage therapist? I had no idea. I saw a show on online just recently, last number of days, and there was a lady. She was living a very transient lifestyle, not military, but just by choice transient. And her partner were traveling together across the country and stuff. And she wanted to have a little mobile hair salon in their RV, the recreational vehicle. And she had to comply with all these regulations. She was trying to get licenses in multiple different states for her hairstylist license. And then she was able to continue working, but it was on a very limited basis because of her transient lifestyle of traveling, but also of just all the regulations on her license of trying to get it recognized and stuff. And so, it's just one of those things where I think there's way too much hardship and regulations, and I think it's really harmful in a lot of ways to people, because you have less hairstylists, you have less plumbers to choose from, you have less professionals to potentially work with. And I think, and it's also less of a business opportunity for the people that have these licenses that want to move to other states and work for themselves and provide much needed services and stuff. And so I just find it to be all around very problematic. Okay. All right, so back to the screen share. All right, so green is state must recognize military spouse license, which I find that I don't agree with that statement because of my own direct experience with this, even recently. All right, the yellow is state must recognize military spouse license if home state has equivalent, what does it say here? As equivalent training. All right. Orange's state may choose to recognize military spouse license, or what they should say, or choose not to. Gray is state's recognition process excludes many professions. And then red is state does not generally recognize military spouse licenses. Oh, and that state, by the way, just to let you know, is Connecticut. Oh my gosh. And I just it makes me laugh. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but there is a show, Stepford Wives. And it's a remake of a 70s show. I think it's been remade multiple times, Stepford Wife or something like that. And it's got Glenn Close in it, a number of cast of characters, whole bunch of famous people in it. And it's based out of Connecticut. And I remember one of the lines Glenn Close said at the end of the movie was something to the effect of, where would people not notice a whole town full of robots? And she said, well, Connecticut. And she said just like that, Connecticut. I love Glenn Close. I think she's amazing. Anyways, that's one of my favorite things that Glenn Close was in. And the other favorite thing was Damages. I love her in Damages. I could watch nothing but a reel of clips of Glenn Close in the movie or in the TV series Damages. Okay. So let me get back to this screen share one last time. All right, so that is the map here. It's got oh, that's some interesting stuff. I actually haven't seen this before. Oh. So I went to another page that I'm looking at. I guess I'll go ahead and remove that page and then share another page so you guys can see what I'm looking at right now. Okay, there we go. So this says military spouse license recognition. Oh no. Let's see. Stop screen. Share screen. Crop top. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right, so military spouse license recognition uses action plan to keep track of occupational license recognition information as you navigate your next military relocation. So they're trying to help people here, so I respect that. It says learn how your new tips and resources. One, learn how your new state is making the license recognition process easier for military spouses or not, in my experience. And it gives you the website. It says understand how to access spouse license recognition options in your new state. And then it goes on to greater details and gives a website for that. Find out how your service branch reimburses spouses for relicensure expenses, and then gives a website for that. And so, that is, great that they're really trying to help people here. I mean, I got nothing but respect for that. Absolutely 1000%. But the reality is that it's just not that simple. None of it is. And as far as getting reimbursed for expenses, the reason I never even tried to do that is because the state that I'm in has made it just next to impossible basically to get licensed. Like, I just don't feel it's even worth the trouble. It would take me months to even begin to comply with the application requirements. And by the time I'd finish it up, I'd be leaving the state. So I just don't see the point. So they do reimburse some expenses, but the reimbursement costs that I mentioned just now for military spouses through the Department of Defense, I guess, or military branch, it's very limited in my experience and what I've researched of it. So like if they say that, oh, you got to take all these courses, or oh, you got to get all supervision or something ridiculous like that. To the best of my knowledge, that's not going to be paid for. And nor should it. I don't think those requirements should be in place to begin with. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone should have to go through that. So, okay. So let's see. I'm looking at the rest of this. All right. So enough about that. So that's really it for this video and this podcast. I hope that this information was helpful and raised some awareness just about the struggle most military spouses go through, as well as the resource of the website it provided and some information. Because while I disagree, quite frankly, with a lot of the information on the website, because my experiences are a direct contrast to that. You look at these websites, this information, you could easily get the impression, I know I did one a long time ago before I lived this life, that it's just so easy for these military spouses, and it's so easy to get things transferred and some great adventurous fun life, and that's just not the reality of it. There's a lot of unemployment, there's a lot of underemployment, there's a lot of employment discrimination going on, and there's just a lot of hardship, a lot of financial hardship, a lot of stress and struggle and strife, and that is the reality, and it contributes to a lot of family problems and marital problems and issues and military families, and specifically these military spouses. And I just been on both sides. I was in the military and active duty. I'm a military veteran now, and obviously military spouse. And so I hope the website was helpful to, at least if you're a professional licensee of some kind, to be able to look into what your options may or may not be in the state that you're in or going to. All right. If you have any experiences that you'd like to share, feel free to do so. You can leave a voice message for the podcast that may or may not be featured publicly in the future. And you can also drop a comment in the YouTube comments section below. Know that everything is absolutely public either way. And if you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like it. That will help the YouTube algorithm make more people find it. And also the podcast is available everywhere that you could possibly listen to podcasts in America. So if you enjoy that, follow along and check it out. I wish you all the best. Bye.